Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Big updates today in the VALORANT world, especially on the Game Changers cheating scandal drama that we saw yesterday. An update going on there. Also Cloud9, a potential team they could have formed being revealed that might well have been better than the team they actually ended up with. But also Sentinels, some scrimbucks getting seen from them after their practices back in business over the last few days. Definitely some interesting players noted on the other side as well as to where they might go for the new year. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Firstly, speaking of Singapore, where Ye currently is for Bleed Esports, PaperX confirm that Jing will be moved to the substitute role. So he actually remains part of the team. We know that Jing has to step away from military service, but as is being seen here, just because he's been such an important part of the team and just such a fun player to watch, has been an active member of the PaperX starting role since 2021, has contributed his mechanical and tactical skills throughout his journey, and yes, he is still part of the PaperX team, still plays an active role in the off-season, filled with positive energy, fearless aggression, continues to personify our identity of WE Gaming. So yeah, I guess he's not having to do the military service immediately, and therefore he is still part of the team on the substitute position. But, you know, I don't imagine that he's going to be able to fulfill that role fully over the next couple of years, because otherwise he would have kept on playing. And yeah, unfortunate for PaperX not winning the World Championship as they wanted to, but they got very close indeed. One team that also came close was Loud. They are continuing to make some interesting decisions right now behind the scenes. Sadak is staying, we had that confirmed, we believe, as the in-game leader. They've lost Aspas though. They might not be getting Havoc either in his replacement, so there's been lots of discussions as to what they're going to do, the way that Leviathan might well have taken a step up on Loud as a result of this, with the changes they're looking to make, and also their head coach, Fraud, will not stay at Loud. Interesting the fact that they've gone through a couple of head coaches over the last couple of years. They had Baka, right, or however you pronounce BZKA, and he was there, then he was gone, he went to MIBR, Fraud came in, and now there is, again, some divided opinions among players as to whether they wanted to keep him or not, and therefore they've decided, you know what, we prefer to go a different route and are not renewing his progress. So definitely some interesting decisions being made here at Loud, because, you know, after winning the World Championship in 2022, this year started off well, but in theory, losing Sassi and Pankada, their roster was somewhat worse, and it turned out that, yeah, they didn't quite reach the heights this year they wanted to, and now their team has also arguably taken another step or two down. So I wonder how they're going to try and rebuild next year. Maybe a new head coach is the way they're going to try and achieve that. Now, yesterday, if you saw yesterday's video, crazy cheating drama in the North American Game Changer scene from this team Newt and this player Malibu. We looked at some of the clips, and, well, there's still a question whether she was banned for effectively cheating, like wall hacks, trigger bots, whatever, or whether it was for ban evasion or something else. But regardless, it's still the same outcome. And as Riot Games say, again, this is the updated statement, Riot Anti-Cheat found that that team compromised, or a player on that team, we know the player, compromised the competitive integrity of the tournament. This information was verified during the match, and therefore they forfeited. The results brought into question, as we discussed yesterday, especially from a team like DSG. Disguised Toast came out and said, look, put all this money into this team for us to get knocked out, or at least locked down to the losers bracket, by a team that was cheating. What should we do about it? And therefore, Riot say, it brought into question the validity of their earlier games, including their victory against DSG, and if the bracket results should be adjusted as a result, by effectively going back and giving wins to teams that had been defeated by this roster. The issue is with that is that if you adjust earlier games, you then change the trajectory of other teams, and it's not something that can realistically be done. Now, as I said yesterday, there is plenty of time until the Game Changers World Championship. If they really wanted to delay this, call it off and go again from scratch, they could. But that would come at huge cost and huge expense and huge disruption, and they don't want to do it. And I get it, and to be honest, I think that their decision here is probably the correct decision, but it's a difficult decision, and it's not one that feels right, but I think it probably is what they've had to do, which is say, look, you know what? We can't really change anything. After evaluating multiple options, including replaying parts of the bracket or reinstating DSG in place of Newt, neither solution felt appropriate, as it would require us to invalidate valid victories and or create additional unfair knock-on effects to multiple teams. it's really difficult for DSG especially, but I think all things considered, these are just difficult scenarios to, avoid. And it's been the case in other tournaments, in other sports, I guess, where teams have lost to other teams that have then got on to get disqualified. But the issue is that if they were cheating in that game, they were probably also cheating in this game, which, it doesn't feel good for DSG. But I think that given the circumstances, Riot think they can't really do much about it and just need to let things proceed as they have done. And I get it, to be honest. Now, this is the interesting part, really. What are the repercussions for this? As Riot Games say, they take these allegations seriously and will be pursuing the exploration of serious measures against parties that knowingly seek to undermine the competitive integrity of our tournament and game. What is serious measures, precisely? What does that equate to? Because they could possibly sue that team and that player. I guess it depends who knew about it, right? Because the team and the teammates and the organization is obviously going to say they had no idea that their player was either straight up cheating or had been playing in a situation to compromise competitive integrity, regardless of the way that is. So could the team get punished? Maybe. What could they do with the player? Because there's always talk about, well, prize money that was won by players that were cheating. Can you reclaim that? There was even in the Call of Duty side this year, one player that was found to be cheating right at the end of the season. He'd played loads of tournaments that year and won a fair bit of prize money, probably while cheating, and yet it didn't seem like any of that money returned to the rightful owners or anything like that. So, but that was a potential action that they could have taken had they wanted to, I imagine. So there could be something similar happening here, but regardless, the tournament kept on going, and Fluorescent yesterday, I mean, she's a star player with V1 for sure. There were some disgusting shots she hit as well, and beat SR 2-1 yesterday, despite the fact that there were some Windows issues. She had to reinstall, the entire PC, basically, and was playing on low FPS, but still it was good enough to get the win. So 2-1, version 1 over Shopify Rebellion. The usual suspects, really, of North American Game Changers Valorant. Split went SR's way 13-11, and then it was 13-8, 13-10. So close series, but V1 advanced to the finals. The other series on the loser side was EG versus Complexity. Both very entertaining series here, and in the end it was EG that got the win. It was 13-6, 13-11 the other way, and then 13-7 back. So EG advanced through. This is the way the bracket looks now. So Newt eliminated, and unfortunate for the way that went, especially with DSG, but in the end, it's the teams that were expected to make it all the way, really, that have done exactly that. Now, Cloud9, they're also playing, actually right now as I'm recording, in this TN tournament, 10 tournament going on out in South Korea right now. So this is the new roster, right? Cloud9 flew out there, and it was actually pretty cool how Oxy does speak a little bit of Korean. So that was pretty cool as well, given that Zed has left, so Oxy's kind of doing the job as well. So kind of cool to see. And just before we get into the games they're currently playing, wanted to mention what their team could have been. We know that MCE used to be the coach over there. He was fired for mysterious reasons, but he says they almost had a very different roster to what they eventually formed, but it eventually fell through.
I don't think they would care, me saying it. So, but yeah, I was super excited about the, Safe, Brock, Flya, Nature, and Jake. Could have been a disgusting roster off the bat. Screwface, I think, has a lot of promise as an IGL. He just needs time to develop. He's a brand new caller. So. Objective accomplished. That's a nice shot out of Panini. We talked to Nismo.
So how about this for a team, right? Safe, who's eventually now joined Vitality, but, could have been a big name import really coming over from EMEA, with Brock, Flyer, Nature, and then, of course, keeping Jake. That's a really interesting team of 5 that we had, no idea really when that was being discussed that was actually happening. Apparently, this was almost going to be happening. Now, apparently, he then went on to say that Flyer decided that he wanted to stay on the Moist Shopify team, and therefore they never really got to trial it, and Safe wanted to play with Flyer. So, yeah, imagine the circumstances could have been different had Flyer said, you know what, I don't want to stay in Tier 2, because pretty crazy, right? We know that, to be fair, Cloud9 would have been paying minimums, and probably MXS or whatever are not playing minimums. So, I don't really know, but still, Flyer made the call, I guess, to decide, you know what, I'm not going to actually get this team and try it in Tier 1. I'm going to stick with my boys in Tier 2 here with this new team we're forming and try and win Ascension. And as a result, the safe thing fell through, then that team fell through, and then MCE lost his job. So crazy how quickly things turn around. But that could have been a really interesting team had they have been able to form that one. And but yeah, of course, not the case. And I feel like I'd have had more, optimism in that team that I currently have in this Cloud9 roster. But let's see how they're getting on. Hit the refresh here. They are, as it stands, okay, they lost 13-10 map 1. So yeah, Edward Gaming, they beat Direx. There's 4 teams here. Edward, T1, Direx, and Cloud9. And Edward went 2-0 in their first couple of maps. Okay, they're playing best of ones. But yeah, Cloud9 just played a 13-10 defeat on Sunset, actually, against T1. And now they're playing up against Direx, which is just beginning here on the Lotus. Okay, they're up 6-2 on this one. But speaking of these matches and how things are getting ready to go currently, wanted to mention what Sentinels are up to, because there's been some questions with these guys. Would they be able to replicate the dominance they seem to display during the World Championship when they weren't at Champs, but they were practicing against the Champs teams with, we think, John QT at the time with their roster, and were doing incredibly well. Even, who was it exactly? It was one of the players in Paper X. I think it might have been Jing, actually. It might be another one who said that Sentinels were just so good. They were like impossible to beat in practice during that tournament, while Paper X and EG and Fnatic were struggling against Sentinels in scrims, but were, dominating the tournament itself and making it all the way deep. So would they be able to replicate that success when scrims get back on the way? Because Tens went away, he was unwell, he came back, everyone was unwell. Now they're back in business. These are the latest details spotted here by James of FA on VLR as of yesterday, 6th of October. And yes, we have a few interesting results. Fury playing a team that we don't really know. So when this is NA, like, not applicable, not available, we don't really know who's involved. But still, we can see there is this Or Esports team or whatever with BCJ, Rooney, and Icy. That's very interesting, just because there's been some questions as to who the 5th man is going to be for M80. And there were some people saying, oh, it could be BCJ. But that seems now unlikely that's going to be the case based on this. So, and also BCJ no longer to 100 Thieves, we think. Also, well, anyone from EG probably no longer to 100 Thieves, to be honest. So that leaves maybe EU going over there. Tough to say. But yeah, few matches being played here by Sentinels. We see various guys. But yeah, 10-5, 4-0, 5-2. So again, looking pretty good. And BCJ's team, interestingly enough, were spotted 0-4 up against M80. Now, of course, it's only 4 rounds. Doesn't really mean that much. But it's definitely interesting to see nonetheless that yeah, maybe this team is pretty good, and maybe Sentinels are pretty good as a result. But very much interested to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.